Welcome to the A-List. I am Bryan Smaller with my guest here today, Dick Johnson. My first question for you, Dick, is how
You're
did
getting
you get
right
to
into
the-
it, Bryan. Jeez.
Yeah, I am.
How about
I'm
good afternoon?
I'm excited for this.
Thanks.
How did you get to your position as anchor and news reporter over at NBC?
At NBC, well, I joined NBC about, boy, I'm going to have to do the math here, 7 years ago. I had been at ABC 7 in Chicago for 20 years as an anchor reporter, and they asked me to come over to do the morning show that was moving to a new facility, Studio 5 on Michigan Avenue, to anchor the morning show, which is 2.5 hours, and it was kind of my dream job, actually. I've always reported for the morning show or contributed to, that and other shows at ABC, and I really wanted to host it myself and with a partner and see how that worked because I'd never done that on a full-time basis. So it was a great opportunity. Love NBC and did that for about 6 years, but it's a burnout job because you get up at 1:30 in the morning and you're always tired, and we have 3 kids, and I'd be collapsing about 6 p.m. right when they needed me to be awake and alive, or at least my wife did, to help out. And so it had a finite period of time that it was great and exciting, and now I've moved on to a more normal existence, anchoring Sunday night news on NBC by myself, and then reporting 4 days a week and backing up the weeknight anchors whenever they're off. So it's a combined kind of utility infielder job now.
Yeah, and I understand when you were in college, you were studying political science.
Right.
Up until you were a senior, or you probably even graduated.
No, I was middle of senior year is when. Well, I was always a political science major through the whole 4 years, but I thought I was destined for law school, so I was kind of a pre-law political science major, and I did some theater on the side and some radio on the side, radio news. I kind of minored in speech in a sense, but really didn't officially minor in it. But it was not to be. I mean, my poli-sci pre-law thing, middle of senior year, came to a screeching halt when I had this epiphany saying, I really don't want to go to law school. And if I do go to law school, I don't think I'm going to be that good, a student anyway, and perhaps not that good of a lawyer. So what am I going to do? And suddenly TV news seemed to pull all the things that I like to do and I'm good at together. And here I am many, many, many years later.
Okay, so you were studying political science, and what school did you say?
At DePaul in Indiana, in Greencastle, Indiana.
So you were studying political science
Right.
at DePaul, and you realized that you kind of didn't want to be a lawyer.
Right.
So you wanted to make that transition to news. How were you able to pull that off?
Well, it was not easy, but I was lucky. College is a great place to learn how to think. They teach you how to think, and you're exposed at a liberal arts college to all disciplines, which is really so valuable. But it's also a great place to experiment and look at what might interest you as a full-time job, because you want to be able to love what you do and hop out of bed in the morning and eagerly go to work. So on the latter point, I did internships at different places in different fields to see if it turned me on or not. And I did an internship senior year at a TV station in the news department. And I said, wow, this really combines all the things I like: politics, current events, writing. I did a little theater on the side, so there's a bit of theater and TV news, or any kind of television. And it was a good fit.
Mm-hmm. So you got an internship job.
At the ABC station in Indianapolis.
Okay, at ABC.
Right.
But how did you get that internship job if you weren't studying anything?
I was news director of the radio station, and then I called the professor who teaches comm classes at DePaul and said, look, I'm having a problem here. I'm 4 or 5 months away from graduating, and I don't think I want to go to law school. I think I'd like to do some TV news work. Can you set me up with an internship last minute so I can at least experience whether I like it or not? And he said, funny thing you called. New general manager at the ABC station in Indianapolis called me the day before, wanted to set up an internship program with DePaul. Why don't you be the first intern? So no application, got in the car, just went. I met the guy, he liked me, I liked him, and bingo, I got the job as a 4-week intern.
Wow.
And the 3rd week, he asked me if I'd like to come back after graduation and work there. So, here I am with a job, and called my parents, and of course they threw cold water over the whole idea because they didn't understand TV news, didn't think I'd be paid at all, if anything. It was so out of their world. So I finally said, look, let me try it. And my dad said, if you can pay rent and feed yourself, put gas in the car, then you got it. You know, but I'll give you a year. And if you fail, then we're going to sales and marketing, like I suggested when you started college.
Yeah, so you were an intern doing, what were you doing as an intern?
Everything, you know, ripping wire copy, helping reporters, going out and actually covering things myself, but not on the air. And then eventually they put me on the air. And that was my big break, the third week of this internship, you know. It was all just this whirlwind, and it doesn't normally happen that way in the 20th market in the country, but, you know, timing was everything, and that's really what life's all about, no matter what you do. Timing, who you know a little bit, little connections help, networks and that kind of thing, networking with people, but being in the right place at the right time and showing yourself as an eager potential employee, it'll get you in the door all the time.
So you were an intern, but not as a reporter.
No, just a general intern, and then, you know, gradually worked my way into reporting stories and got on the air a couple of times, and that's when they offered me a job. So then I started in the summer and was a street reporter starting in June after graduation. And, you know, by 2 years into it, I'm cocky and think I'm pretty good, you know. I mean, I had no idea what I was doing 2 years earlier. Suddenly, I think I'm pretty good at it. And so I'm looking around for other opportunities, bigger markets, wanting to move up a little bit. And Dallas called, and I moved to Dallas in many years ago. And spent 5 years there, became an anchor of the 5 o'clock news Monday through Friday. Ironically, Jose Sanders, who's now the morning anchor at ABC7, was the weekend anchor down there, so our paths crossed down there, and covered major national stories at that point. And I went on the Bush-Reagan campaign, presidential campaign, because Bush was from, the old Bush was from, George Herbert Walker Bush was from Texas. And so we wanted to cover him all around the country, which we did, and that afforded me the opportunity to really get some national experience and exposure. And then an agent called from William Morris because he'd seen a piece I'd done, and they signed me on as a client. And then, like in 5 years after I got to Dallas, I was asked to come to Chicago to ABC7.
That was with ABC7.
Right,
So
right.
how long were you here in Chicago with ABC?
20 years, and then 7 years ago went across the street to NBC.
And why'd you choose NBC?
Because of the morning show, my first point that I made with you, that I went over to anchor the morning show.
Okay, so what does your typical day look like at NBC?
Well, my schedule's odd because Sundays, for example, I'm anchoring the news, so I get in, 3 o'clock and I work till 11 after football, this time of year. Sometimes I work nights, sometimes I work days, but usually it's when I'm reporting, you go into the story meeting at 9 o'clock, you discuss stories, you bring a story to the table, they assign you something, and out the door you go, and you report on the evening news. When I'm anchoring, then I come in and, depending on what show I'm doing, and read some of the copy that's been written already by the writers there, look through the web, look through all the news wires, and try to make sure that we've got the latest, greatest stuff in the newscast, and then I'm the final editor on what we're putting on in the air, basically, me and the producer.
Gosh, so you've got a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, a lot of different varying responsibilities. So as someone who, likes change and doesn't like to do the same thing every day, it's a perfect fit for me.
So as the economy started to appreciate and go
Yes.
down, have you been added and assigned new responsibilities?
Well, we've shrunk as an organization. TV news used to be the profit center of every TV station. And now with cable and internet, we've got, like 1/5 of the viewing audience we used to have 10 years ago. It's happened very quickly. So we've shrunk our news staff, and all of us who are remaining do have more duties than we used to. For example, I'm anchoring Sunday night by myself instead of with a partner. So it's a 20, sometimes a 28 to 30 minute news program, and you're out there all by yourself, and we don't even have floor managers anymore to cue like you do, to cue you on camera. So everything is, you and the director corresponding before you go on the air, listening to the producer and the director in your ear and hoping everything goes well. So in that regard, there's a lot more on your shoulders, and we're also very computerized, and we're pushing stuff to our website, and we're pushing stuff ultimately to our HD channels. And so when you come in as a reporter with a story, you're now pushing it out to different platforms. Content distribution is not just on the evening news, it's 24/7 on different platforms that we have at NBC. And now we've just been purchased by Comcast, and that's going to increase even more. Comcast is going to, grow the local news operation. They have distribution, they don't have content. So we have content. So it's a great marriage, and our jobs will only get more complicated.
Yeah, so here at RB, we actually have our own news show, and one of the anchors in particular is looking to become an anchor, just as yourself. What advice would you give to anyone who's an inspired anchor?
Don't ever go job shopping as an anchor.
Okay.
Go job shopping as a journalist and as a reporter, and get your, earn your stripes as a reporter, and anchor along the way. Gone are the days where we have news readers, people who just sit down and read copy. Although sadly, everybody in the real world thinks that. In fact, it just happened to me today. I ran into a woman who said, "Well, now, do you write any of the things you put on the air, or do you just sit and read? You look real nice and you read the copy. I mean, how hard is that?" And I go, "Oh, that's the last thing we do in our broadcast day. We write, we edit, we put pieces together, which are very complicated. There's a whole, as you know from working here, there's a whole process to getting a story on the air, let alone a newscast. So, as going job shopping as an anchor, wrong approach. Learn how to be a journalist and a reporter and work as that, and anchor as well. Try to get, as I did and many other people did coming up, try to get an anchor job on the side. And if you're really good at that, then they'll see that. Management will see that and increase that part of your day. They'll say, okay, you're going to do the 5 o'clock news as an anchor in a small market and do some stories on the side. But if you can't report, can't write, don't even bother getting in the business. I mean, it's just not going there anymore.
So if you wanted to get into this, you would start off as a writer.
No, as a reporter.
As a reporter,
yeah, sure.
You would try to just go right there. Okay.
Writers are generally behind the scenes all the time. And reporters are going to be in front of the camera, and still, we write all of our own. I still write, and will always write all of my own stories that I've been out reporting. If I'm anchoring a newscast, there are writers who are writing the other stories in the newscast. But if one of my stories in the newscast, I'm writing the lead into it and the copy in the piece itself.
Well, I know there's a lot of talk about convergence journalism. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, and define convergence in your mind.
Well, the way I see this market working is it's kind of working away from anchors. This is just what I've been thinking. And is working to getting closer and closer to just on the web kind of stuff.
Right. And that's probably where we're going. Web and in another year or two, we'll have handheld digital signals, receiving digital signals. So you'll be able to watch the newscast live on your handheld device. I mean, they exist now, and they'll be mass marketed in the next couple of years. So that's another platform for us. But I beg to differ with those who think it's just going to be that. I think there's still a huge need, want, and desire for watching things on television, at least for another 5 or 10 years. I know in the 40 and over group especially, and maybe even the 30 and over group, putting your feet up and watching the TV newscast, even if you DVR it, is a pleasurable experience. And it's nice to watch things on TV versus on your computer screen all the time or a handheld. So what we're going to be is a conglomeration of a lot of different media platforms right now. How long that will last, I don't know. Where we're pushing stuff on the web more and more, and definitely will be doing that. To our other HD channels, we'll be doing something. We may be a 24-hour local newscast when Comcast takes over, and we'll be pushing material to that. We'll also have our traditional evening newscasts, and they will be fronted and hosted by anchors still, but those anchors it'll be incumbent upon them to do other things like report in the field, as our anchors do now.
So where do you see yourself in 1, 5, 10 years?
10 years, maybe retired, I don't know. Although I can't ever see myself not doing this because I really enjoy it. But I would say probably doing pretty much the same thing I'm doing now, with more emphasis on whatever I'm doing to be put on digital channels or the internet or a handheld device. Not, I think the traditional newscast, you're right in the sense, traditional newscasts will wane eventually on TV, or they will change considerably and just be a complete 24/7 live operation. So I think that's where I hope to participate in all that for at least another decade, and maybe beyond that. I mean, John Drury was 75 when he quit, so I don't want to go that long, but because it does wear on you. You have to run a lot, and that's the other advice I'd give to people. It's not a cush business. It looks like it. It looks like a luxurious business. It's not. You know, we're all dressed up and fancy, and everybody's hair is nice and makeup, whatever. But you work hard, and you'll work even harder now because we're a leaner, meaner operation. Because there's less money being spent on TV, or TV news is costing more to operate, and it's less of a profit center for a TV station. So there are less people doing more things.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Mr. Johnson.
I'm proud to be on the A-list, Bryan Smaller.
Well, thanks for watching the A-list. I'm Bryan Smaller with Dick Johnson, NBC5.
You got it right.
Watching.
Good. And good luck to you.